And welcome to Hannity. And tonight, a big show, a lot of news. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy will be here on the disaster Joe Biden and Pothole Pete left behind. Now, another unvetted Biden-Harris illegal immigrant driving an 18-wheeler just arrested after ramming his big rig into several cars, killing 3 Americans while allegedly intoxicated. And in case you're wondering how a person like this got his commercial driver's license, you may just have to check in with the United Socialist Utopia Governor of California, Governor Gavin Newsom, if he's not busy tweeting and doing a podcast. Also tonight, Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin, he will join us. His state is holding one of the 3 major elections this year, but according to MSDNC, Americans are just so misogynistic that the Democrat Abigail Spanberger might lose to Winsome Sears. Oh, 2 women. Take a look.
This is something that a lot of Democrats are grappling with right now. As they've nominated women 2 of the last 3 elections for the presidency, lost both. There are some who say, well, we can't do that again. The stakes are too high. But of course, that does fall into the same misogynistic trap.
That make any sense? Anyway, as you can see, the legacy media mob, they're still using and addicted to identity politics, even when a Republican candidate happens to be a Jamaican-American immigrant woman. Unfortunately, on the left, attacks from Democrats have taken on an even more sinister tone. In fact, a huge part of the radical Democratic base absolutely, positively hates anyone who dares to disagree with them. This venom now has spread throughout the Democratic Party like a cancer, and it has now inspired some of their most unhinged members to commit real acts of violence. We are living through an assassination culture. Scary times out there. We all witnessed President Trump come within a millimeter of losing his life. We all witnessed the horror of Charlie Kirk's assassination, and we have long reported on the seemingly never-ending stream of attacks against ICE agents, politicians, anyone else targeted by the left, judges, etc. And yet, the vitriol from Democrats worse than ever. On fake news CNN, a Texas Democrat running for Congress threatened to go across the neck of her Republican adversaries. Very embracing. Take a look.
Donald Trump has changed things, and people trying to do what's always been done is not going to work. And I think that's why Democrats are losing black people. That's why they're losing poor people, because poor people, all they want is for us to fight. So if you hit me in my face, I'm not going to punch you back in your face. I'm going to go across your neck, because we can go back and forth fighting in each other's faces. You've got to hit hard enough where they won't come back. And so, yeah, for the same way I went to New York and spoke with Governor Kathy Hochul and said, if they're going to try to wipe us out in Texas, we need to wipe out every Republican in New York, in California, in Illinois. So no one can make me feel bad about fighting for the people that I represent.
Unbelievable. Maybe the worst part, zero pushback, no attempt to clarify from fake news CNN, the network that, gets the vapors every time Donald Trump tells a joke, can't be bothered to call out violent language of Democrats live on the air who echo the Charlie Kirk assassination. Here's another example. Look at your screen. A school teacher from Illinois, still gainfully employed, and has the support of the principal after violently mimicking the shooting of Charlie Kirk during a, quote, No Kings protest. In fact, the principal of her school is defending this in a letter to parents and pretending, oh, she's the victim. And at the University of Arizona, as we discussed last night, this investigation still underway. A pink-haired lunatic caught on camera telling a group of Turning Point USA students to watch their necks. Take a look.
Hey, Nazis, can you set up somewhere where I can avoid you easily?
Yeah, thank you. Have a great day.
Nah, you, Nazi. Watch your neck.
Wow. But the glorification of violence doesn't end there. The raging Cajun, what happened to good old James Carville, now raging more than ever, not in a good way. Take a look.
You know what we do with collaborators.
Right.
And I think as corporations, my fantasy dream is that this nightmare ends in 2029. And I think we ought to have radical thing. I think they all ought to have their heads shaven. They should be put in orange pajamas, and it should be marched down Pennsylvania Avenue, and the public should be invited to spit on them. The universities, the corporations, the law firms, all of these collaborators should be shaved, pajamaed, and spit on.
Shaved, pajamaed, and spit on. That's more openness and a loving embrace from the left. You would think after all of the shootings, all of the violence, all of the assassination and assassination attempts, Democrats would try to tone down the rhetoric. Instead, they are ramping it up big time. In Illinois, Governor J.B. Pritzker constantly comparing Donald Trump, ICE agents, to Nazis. Just a couple of hours ago, right here on this network, our own Brett Baer called him out. How did Pritzker respond? By comparing Trump to Pinochet. Remember the notoriously violent dictator from Chile? Take a look.
What I can tell you is that Alberto Pinochet was an authoritarian. There are lots of authoritarians that I could point to. It happens that I know best because I helped build a Holocaust museum sitting next to Holocaust survivors about what the Nazis did in those early years.
Well, I understand that.
I'm not talking about the Holocaust. I'm talking about what they were doing, taking away people's rights, arresting people, asking them for papers. Early on in an authoritarian regime, wherever it is in the world throughout history, this is what happens. It's the beginning of something very bad for our country.
All right, according to Pritzker, America is now virtually the same as the early days of Nazi Germany. Nazi, fascist, racist, Hitler, Stalin, Mussolini. They don't stop. Didn't work in 24, but why stop now? This is nothing more than dangerous, dehumanizing, and never-ending incitement. People that may be a little off balance are hearing these, quote, leaders every day. Repeating the same lie, the same smear, the same slander, the same besmirchment. And of course, he says, you know, this without any fear of retribution or violence, because we don't live in a dictatorship, and it's his base that is committing all of that violence. And you would think he may begin to focus on something positive, like bringing down the homicide rate in his extremely violent state. Remember, 5 times the homicide rate of New York City. That's saying a lot. Over 4,000 dead in Illinois since that demagogue became governor. He's a failure. He's a disgrace. And out west in California, Newsom still making his weird, cringeworthy social media posts. In a gross new post, Newsom publishing this image of knee pads of Trump supporters, also bashing those who collaborate with the Trump administration, suggesting they won't get into heaven. Okay, take a look.
Donald Trump's a broken man. He's trying to break this country. Everybody knows that. But to see people in positions of power and influence do absolutely nothing when they must know better, and I believe they do nothing, boy, they're going to have a lot to reconcile at the pearly gates.
Oh, luckily, it won't be Gavin Newsom that makes that decision. Thank goodness for Jesus. Meanwhile, on MSDNC, more vilification of President Trump, this time featuring their favorite new source of hysteria, the big, beautiful new ballroom under construction. Forget about the 16 to 20 other presidents that have done a lot of construction at the White House. That doesn't count. Take a look.
But it's also un-American what he plans to do, right? Like what's going to go up in its place is not anything that we're used to seeing here. Here's a side-by-side of Trump's rendition of a ballroom with the Winter Palace ballroom in St. Petersburg. Russia.
Yeah, Russia. I mean, autocrats have a similar aesthetic. They like a lot of gold.
Really? They're back to peddling lies and conspiracy theories. Russia. That hoax still raging inside the halls of MSDNC. And meanwhile, behind the walls of America's most prestigious colleges, more vitriol directed at President Trump, according to a new report. A dean at Harvard University openly hoping that Donald Trump would die, called police evil, mocked the death of our friend Rush Limbaugh, described whiteness as a self-destructive ideology. A few hundred miles south at Howard University, a professor there openly encouraging white allies to become violent against their political enemies. But maybe the worst rhetoric of the night is from this conversation with fake news, CNN, one of their hosts, Abby Phillips. Take a look.
What do you do when the racists are in charge?
like they are now.
Well, look,
I mean, like Stephen Miller is a white supremacist. I mean, he is, and he's basically running the White House. They keep Trump busy with his decorating projects. He's got building the arch now. He's got his Oval Office design. And then you have these real sociopaths that are real anti-Semites, true white supremacists like Stephen Miller. And even though he's Jewish, he's like a Nazi Jew.
Well, look, I can't speak to what Stephen Miller's motivations are.
Really? That's all CNN, an anchor there, has to say? Stephen Miller and his family have faced one threat after another. Look at this. That's in front of his house. That is his wife, Katie, cleaning off the sidewalk that these left-wing agitators targeting their home where they have young children. And yet the violent rhetoric from the left continues without a care in the world. Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.